beautiful people, how are you all doing today? I hope you guys are doing just fine. Today's video is going to be about the IELTS writing task 1. I released the IELTS writing task 2 last week and a lot of people really liked it, and on my Instagram I got over 50 saves, and I just want to tell you guys that I really appreciate that. And on YouTube, most people who started the video watched it till the end. For me, that's a big win for me, so thank you very much once again. So who needs this video? If you are a doctor or a nurse who is interested in going to countries like Canada, UK, Ireland and Australia, this video is for you. If you are interested in moving to any of those countries I mentioned earlier, this video is for you. So before we dive right into the video, let's quickly take a short break. Basically, contrary to popular belief, I didn't pass my IELTS at once, and also I understand that a lot of people have been wondering how come I took the IELTS after I passed my PLAB 2. So I'm going to tell you guys what actually happened. So after I passed my PLAB 2 in May 2019, I, of course, like everyone else, applied for the GM state license. So unfortunately, they noticed that my IELTS had expired. So guys, if you don't know, the IELTS has a validity of 2 years, after which it would be unuseful. So, although they gave me 2 conditions where I could use it, I mean an expired IELTS. First of all, if I've worked in England for at least 3 months, or if my native language is English. I couldn't do either of the two, so I decided to go for the IELTS. I thought to myself, I've done this before, I did this 2 years ago, I should be able to do it again. History should be able to repeat itself once again. And I booked my exam, and then I got the most unbelievable results of my life. I can't even tell you guys what I had, but the mark was terrible. So what did I do? I arranged myself and booked another exam. I booked the next available exam, which was November, I think it was, I don't know, I think 2nd week of November also. And what did I do differently this time? I re-strategized. I sat down, relaxed, tried to look for what I did wrong in my previous exam, and then tried to do things differently this time. Instead of using a pencil, I used a pen, because I acknowledge that my handwriting is terrible. So I knew that writing with pencil wouldn't do my writing justice. Of course, I wouldn't advise you guys to do that. I did that because I dedicated 7 days of writing. I was practicing every day, so I already had a lot of vocabularies in my head, a lot of things were going on in my head, and I knew that there was no way they would bring writing from that I wouldn't have any idea of in the first place. So I went back into that hall, sat down on the same seat, and slayed, and had an overall band score of 8, because I knew that I was born to win. I was born to excel. I was born for excellence. I wasn't born a failure. So that was what I did. So if I'm able to do that within 7 days, I know you guys should be able to do that as well. Really, you should be able to do that. And also, I feel as though I'm the best person who should be teaching this, because I have made mistakes, and I wouldn't want you guys to make the same mistakes I made in that exam, which is why I'm going to be giving you 10 tips that you need to succeed in your IELTS writing task 1. To begin with, what is the IELTS writing task 1? That's the academic, of course. The IELTS writing task 1 is a writing that entails you to write at least 150 words, and the writing could come in form of a map. They could tell you to describe a map. They could tell you to describe a bar chart or a pie chart or a line graph. They could give you a diagram and tell you to explain the process which took place in the diagram. So What is the reader looking for in your IELTS writing task? Well, let me highlight it. As usual, I wrote everything down because I don't want to forget any point. Every single point is valid. So the first thing your reader wants to see is they want to see if you have a good language of comparison and contrast. For example, what I mean by good language of comparison and contrast is you must have words like similarly, also, in the same way, likewise, although, conversely, in contrast, however. You must have those words at your beck and call, such that when you are writing, you don't find it difficult to introduce into your writing. Second thing your reader wants to see, in the case of if you got a map, if you were given a map in your IELTS writing task 1, they want to see if you have good language of location and time. So for example, what I mean by that is words like nearby, above, adjacent to, southwest, to the north of, to the south of, just below, behind, further than, immediately, meanwhile, in the meantime. They want to see how you are able to use all those words. Finally, they want to see if you have good language of sequence, such that when you begin a paragraph, you know how to put a language of sequence and let your reader know that, okay, I'm beginning a paragraph, okay, I'm done with this paragraph, I'm moving into the next one. Furthermore, in addition, they want to see how you're able to use words like that. So now that you already know what your reader wants to see, it is time for us to go to the 10 tips that you need to succeed in your IELTS writing task 1. So the first tip that you need is for you to read your task. The importance of, I understand that sounds like, why would I not read my task before in the first place? Yeah, I understand that, but you must read your task and understand it. That's the first thing. You get the second point from the first point. By that I mean, if you read your task, you would know the kind of tense you should write. Imagine you got something like okay, this graph happened in so years, and then you start writing in present tense. It doesn't make sense that way. So if you are given something of the past, you should write in past tense. Next, so the third thing is for you to paraphrase. Like I said in the task 2 lesson, you have to paraphrase here as well. Although here it's easier because the things you are changing is not much. You need to paraphrase, because if you don't, you will lose marks for not paraphrasing. And believe me, you need every mark you can get in your IELTS, right? For the purpose of this lesson, we are going to use this line graph as an example. In my exam, I got a bar chart, but not to worry, it's similar. So looking at the graph and the question says, the graph below shows 4 countries of residence of overseas students in Australia. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. If you listened attentively to what I said about what your reader wants to see in your IELTS writing task 1, you remember I said you want to check if you have good language of comparison and contrast. So we are going to see how I was able to incorporate all of that into my writing. So for the purpose of this lesson, we are going to use a line graph as an example. In my exam, I got a bar chart, but it's similar, so not to worry. Looking at the graph here, checking the horizontal axis, we have the number of years from 1982 to year 2000, and also on the vertical axis, we have number of students in thousands. And we have the key here, which represents the 4 countries of residence or visitors. We have the 4 countries of residence or overseas students in Australia here, which is Indonesia, Hong Kong, Malaysia, and Singapore. How I paraphrased, I literally changed, because here they didn't tell us what type of graph, but as it's obvious that it's a line graph, and overseas students, I changed that to foreign students, and they said the graph below shows. So instead of writing that shows, I replaced it with illustrate. You can use depict as well. It's the same thing. So how I paraphrased, the line graph illustrates the number of foreign students in thousands from 4 different countries who visited Australia between 1982 and 2000, which is a period of 18 years. So the tip number 4 is writing an overview. An overview is the most conspicuous thing on the graph. If it's a diagram, it's the most conspicuous thing on the diagram. If it's a map, it's the most conspicuous thing on your map. So here you can see that blue line is the most conspicuous. Our overview would be that checking Indonesia, it started from 0 and it went up. It peaked around 1998 and fell around 1999, and then in year 2000 it got to almost 23,000, about 23,000. So that is the most conspicuous thing here. So how you write an overview? Overall, the number of students from Indonesia ranked the highest. That is your overview. So when writing, make sure that you add the overview to the first paragraph. So moving forward, now we are going to talk in more detail. So let's go back to the graph again. So looking at the graph, you can see that these three countries, I mean Indonesia, Hong Kong and Singapore, all started from 0. However, Malaysia started from 5,000 students. If you trace it to the vertical axis, that is 5. So how did I put that into my writing? So now, beginning the body of your second paragraph, you need to let your reader know that you are starting a fresh paragraph. So how did I do that? In more detail, it is evident from the graph that Indonesia, Hong Kong and Singapore had no student visitors up until around 1987, whereas Malaysia started off differently with about 5,000 students in the year 1982. Did you hear me say whereas? That's saying in contrast to the aforementioned countries which started at 0. So moving forward to the body of my third paragraph. Furthermore, it can be seen that students did not leave from Singapore and Hong Kong until 1987. Let's go back to our graph to ascertain this. So let's check Singapore and Hong Kong. As you can see, the both of them, no students didn't leave up till around 1987. That's in between 1986 and 1988. So which is what I said in my writing. Furthermore, it can be seen that students did not leave from Singapore and Hong Kong until 1987. At that point, arrivals from Singapore increased steadily, reaching almost 20,000 students in the year 2000. That's talking about Singapore now. In contrast, arrival from Hong Kong showed a more erratic pattern, reaching a peak of almost 20,000 students in 1995. So let's go to our graph to ascertain that. You can see that for Hong Kong, the wave of the line graph is erratic, it's chaotic, it's turbulent. If you study the pattern of it, unlike the other ones that are able to go high, steadily high for some time and then eventually peaked. But in the case of Hong Kong, it's different. So which is what I wrote here. So you have to write a conclusion. In order to write a conclusion, just write your overview in more detail. So how did I do that? In conclusion, Indonesia had the highest number of student visitors who went to study in Australia, although this started low but kept increasing over the years till 1998, where it peaked at approximately 28,000 before dropping to the final arrival of 23,000 students. And that's it. So I counted the words. I actually wrote exactly 170 words. So tip number 7, you need to go back and read your task again in order to correct any grammatical error you might have made during the writing. Tip number 8 is using IELTS body to study. There are about 20 graphs, different types of graphs and diagram illustrations for you to use. So if you do all of that, it's not too much. You will have vast array of vocabularies, vast additional phrases, vast array of language of time and sequence, vast array of language of comparison and contrast. So it's good for you if you use the website to study. I will leave a direct link to it down below. So the 9th tip is for you to practice. The more you practice, the better you become. Like I said earlier, I practiced my IELTS writing within 7 days. And I got an entirely different result. Like I went from like 0 to 100 in 7 days. Finally, the tip number is for you to recommend this video and share on all your social media platforms, because you never know who might need this kind of content. So if you enjoyed this video, there are several ways for you to let me know. First of all, by giving it a thumbs up. Secondly, by leaving a comment down below. Thirdly, by sharing that, like I've said. And the fourth thing is for you to turn on your post notification bell, such that when I release this kind of content, you'll be the first person to know. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. So I just want to highlight some important points that I mentioned in order for you to succeed in your IELTS writing task 1. So repeat after me. The first thing you must do is to read your task. The second thing you must do is to confirm your tense, whether it's present perfect you want to write or past tense. The third thing you want to do is to paraphrase. The fourth thing is writing an overview. The fifth thing is the body of your paragraph and letting your reader know you are beginning a fresh new paragraph. The sixth thing is writing your conclusion. The 8th tip is proofreading and correcting errors, followed by IELTS, using IELTS body, and then finally practice and practice again. Alright guys, see you next time.